A body hangs from a broken tree branch, swaying in the frozen wind. A lone soldier steps forward, breath ragged, and realizes there's no sound but his own heartbeat. The radio is dead. Somewhere, someone chose death over mercy, and now he must decide, live or join them. Winter has come early to the outskirts of the Eastern Front. The village of Kresna, once vibrant, now lies in silent ruin. Snow drifts cover broken rooftops. The streets are deserted except for footprints frozen in time. The trees stand tall, skeletal, their limbs heavy with ice, trembling under a biting wind that carries distant echoes of conflict. Soldiers move like shadows, careful, deliberate, each step a negotiation with fear. Among them is Lieutenant Emil Varga. He is neither heroic nor particularly strong, yet the war has placed him here, and he moves forward because stopping is impossible. He walks through the village square, eyes scanning the horizon, noting the quiet gaps between gunfire. His men rely on him not for courage, but for judgment. Every decision is measured against survival. Every hesitation might be fatal. The radio crackles weakly in the background, a burst of static that immediately fades. Emil kneels to check it, frustration shadowing his expression. There should have been orders. There should have been guidance. But silence is now the loudest command. The thought strikes him sharply. Sometimes, in war, waiting is a decision. Snow continues to fall, soft and relentless, muffling sound but sharpening senses. A faint trail of smoke curls from the ruins of a nearby farmhouse, a small beacon of human presence in an otherwise abandoned landscape. Emil signals two soldiers to investigate, and they move with careful precision. Their boots break the delicate silence with measured crunches. The forest looms around them like a vast, gray cathedral, branches scratching the sky, and the wind whispers warnings of unseen dangers. Emil's mind drifts to the letter he received days ago, carried by a courier who disappeared before returning. Its message was simple yet unbearable. A village had been overtaken, families lost, all because a decision was delayed. He cannot afford to hesitate. Every movement, every command now carries the weight of unseen consequences. The fear is not only for himself, but for the fragile thread of humanity he hopes to preserve in his men. The soldiers reach the farmhouse. Its door hangs ajar, creaking slowly in the wind. Inside, snow drifts have accumulated across the floor. The walls are blackened, remnants of warmth and life now erased. Emil steps in first, scanning. A table stands overturned, plates frozen in mid-spill, a chair shattered. The silence is thick, oppressive, filled with unspoken stories of fear and despair. He notices a small object on the windowsill, a child's shoe, frozen in frost. The sight arrests him, a jolt to the stomach, a reminder that war is not abstract. It touches every life, every fleeting moment. Emil kneels to touch it lightly, careful not to disturb the fragile balance of snow and memory. In that instant, the sound of distant gunfire pierces the quiet. He rises immediately, scanning the tree-line. The soldiers crouch, tense, as the realization hits. They are not alone. The wind shifts, carrying an unfamiliar scent. Smoke, wet earth, and something metallic. Emil knows this smell. It is the scent of the advancing front. Decisions must be made, silently, quickly. The men look to him. He looks back at the trail they have just traveled. Every footprint is a story, every pause a risk. The forest beyond seems endless, a gray expanse where the dead and living share the same shadows. Suddenly, movement, a flash of gray against the white. Emil freezes, heart hammering. He raises a hand, signaling the others to stop. The sound of a snapped branch echoes unnaturally loud in the still air. His mind races through possibilities, each one darker than the last. Should they advance, retreat, or wait? Every choice carries a weight he cannot escape. The soldiers hold their positions. Time stretches, each second drawn taut by uncertainty. Emil listens intently. The snow continues to fall, muffling sound but heightening tension. The distant artillery now blends with the forest wind, a rhythmic reminder that the war does not wait. Visual, wide shot of soldiers crouched, snow falling, wind-bending branches, distant artillery flashes. He glances down at the footprints they have made, then back to the forest. Every step forward seems a gamble, a negotiation with fate. And then, a sudden silence. Not the gentle quiet of snowfall, but a hollow, waiting silence, as if the forest itself is holding its breath. Emil's hand tightens on his rifle, and the men follow instinctively. They move forward, cautiously, each step a question asked into the gray expanse, unanswered. And there, just beyond the bend, a glimmer of something unexpected, a trace of life, or perhaps a trap. Emil freezes. The wind howls, carrying a distant, almost inaudible whisper, a warning or a memory. He raises his eyes toward it, knowing that the next decision could alter the fragile thread that keeps them alive. Visual, slight movement in fog, wind-bending trees, close-up of Emil's face. The forest seems alive with anticipation. Snow continues to fall. Footsteps pause. Breath hangs in the cold air. Emil reaches for the object in the distance, unsure if it is salvation or doom. And in that frozen moment, the world holds its breath with him. The glimmer in the fog resolves into the outline of a man, or is it only a shadow? Emil steps closer, every nerve taut. His men freeze behind him, eyes darting. The forest exhales a low, chilling wind, carrying the faint metallic smell of blood and cold iron. Somewhere, a decision is being made, one that cannot be undone. Emil signals the men to halt. The shadow moves slightly. For a brief moment, he thinks it is another soldier, lost, perhaps even friendly. But the way the figure stands, frozen and unmoving, suggests something else entirely. Fear presses against his chest like a heavy weight. He wonders how many choices in war have led only to more waiting, more silence, more loss. The men whisper to each other, voices barely audible over the wind. Emil listens, measuring each syllable, searching for panic or false courage. Every sound carries potential betrayal, every pause a possible threat. His mind recalls the letter, the one warning him of the village lost. He had promised to act differently this time, to make the choices that mattered before it was too late. He steps forward. The shadow resolves into an elderly man, hunched, eyes wide with something like terror or hope. Emil's rifle lowers slightly, but his men remain ready. The man opens his mouth, then closes it. Nothing comes. Silence presses again. Emil realizes that words will not help. Only observation, patience, and judgment can guide them now. The wind shifts abruptly, scattering snow like ash. Somewhere distant, a shell bursts. Emil flinches, but his hand stays steady on the rifle. Every choice is now amplified by exhaustion, by the weight of responsibility. Should they approach, wait, or retreat? Each option carries a shadow of potential death, for themselves or others. The old man finally moves. A slow, careful gesture of surrender, hands raised slightly. Emil signals the others to lower their weapons, but tension remains taut. Inside the farmhouse, snow continues to drift across the floor, untouched and eternal. Emil senses the quiet judgment of history pressing upon him. Every decision is a test of morality, courage, and survival. Hours pass, though time seems suspended. Emil and his men escort the man through the ruins, careful not to make noise. Footsteps crunch on frozen debris, but the forest absorbs them, leaving only whispers of movement. The old man points vaguely to a distant path, toward a cluster of ruins partially hidden by fog. Emil understands. They are not the only ones seeking shelter. The line between friend and foe is invisible in this gray world. Night approaches, though the winter sky gives little distinction between day and night. They find shelter in a partially collapsed barn. Inside, the smell of damp hay mingles with a metallic scent of war. The men huddle together, not for warmth, but for reassurance. Emil scans their faces, each one a reflection of fear, exhaustion, and fragile hope. Survival is no longer about strength, he thinks, but about small acts of trust, moments of humanity in impossible circumstances. The old man remains silent, staring at the floor. Emil studies him. There is something both ordinary and extraordinary in his presence. The man has survived the advance, the destruction, and yet he carries no weapon. What moral obligations does survival create? Emil wonders. He cannot shake the thought that decisions, both acted and deferred, will echo long after this night ends. Outside, the wind intensifies, rattling the barn walls. Footsteps crunch nearby, too deliberate to be his own men. Emil signals a pause. Every shadow now becomes a question: enemy, civilian, chance, or fate? The forest seems to lean closer, listening, judging each choice. Visual, POV looking out cracks in barn walls, distant figures moving in snow, snow falling. He remembers the letters, the lost villages, the whispers of men who never returned. Every story seems to converge here, in this cold, gray space between life and death. A single wrong decision could unravel everything, not just for them, but for the lives they encounter along the way. Emil feels the weight of command pressing harder than the snow-laden sky above. The soldiers share quiet glances, understanding that fear is not a weakness. It is a shared language, a signal that none of them are truly alone in this endless expanse of cold and ruin. They prepare to move again, each step calculated, cautious, measured. Emil knows that every pause, every hesitation, has already been judged by invisible eyes, those of fate, memory, and conscience. Suddenly, a sound, metal scraping against wood, sharp, deliberate, and close. Emil freezes. His men react instinctively, rifles raised, eyes scanning the fog. The old man remains still, almost disappearing into the gray. The world outside the barn seems to hold its breath with him, every snowflake a ticking second, every shadow a potential threat. Emil steps forward carefully, signaling the men to follow. They advance slowly, senses alert, aware that any misstep could trigger disaster. Each breath is visible in the cold air, hanging like fragile smoke. Every decision becomes a moral negotiation. How far will they go to protect life without endangering it? How much risk is justified? The forest stretches endlessly, gray and silent. Snow covers footprints, erasing their past and leaving only uncertainty ahead. Emil pauses at a narrow clearing. A faint movement, another shadow, another potential choice. His hand hovers over his rifle, ready to act, but unsure whether action or inaction carries the greater cost. The men glance at him, awaiting guidance, trust hanging in the frosty air. A distant flash of light from artillery illuminates the tree line briefly, and for a heartbeat, everything is visible: the shattered villages, frozen rivers, and skeletal trees. Emil feels a weight settle in his chest. This is not the battlefield of strategy or heroism. This is the battlefield of human choice. He exhales slowly, acknowledging that fear and morality are entwined, inseparable from survival. They advance again, cautiously, each step a negotiation with the gray world. Footsteps crunch, snow falls, wind whistles, but the silence between moments is heavier than any sound. Emil knows that whatever lies ahead, life, death, salvation, or despair, will demand a choice, irreversible and exacting. The forest seems to lean closer, waiting to witness what they will do. And then, a snap. A branch gives way under weight not their own. Emil freezes. His men freeze. The old man flinches slightly. The forest holds its breath. The world narrows to the sound of snow crunching under a hidden foot. Snow continues to fall. Silence presses heavily, only broken by wind and distant artillery. Emil's hand tightens on his rifle. The forest waits, patient and merciless. The choice ahead, unknown yet inevitable, looms like the gray horizon itself. The snow muffles everything but the distant echo of artillery. Emil crouches behind a fallen tree, breath visible in the frozen air. A faint shadow moves across the clearing. His heart pounds, not from danger alone, but from the weight of choices that cannot be undone. Somewhere ahead, a single decision will decide survival or death for them all. Night descends fully, though in winter it is already a thick gray veil. Emil's group moves slowly through the forest, senses heightened, each step deliberate. The old man walks silently among them, ghost-like, a reminder of fragility and survival. The men are exhausted, hunger gnawing at their bellies, frost burning exposed skin. Yet fatigue is secondary to the constant moral negotiation: whom to help, whom to trust, when to act, and when to wait. The shadow reappears, a soldier, ragged, wounded, and alone. Emil gestures to halt. The man collapses to his knees, eyes pleading. The group exchanges quick, tense glances. Help him or leave him. Every option carries danger. The forest does not forgive mistakes, and war does not reward hesitation. Emil kneels, assessing the risk. He notes movement in the tree-line, enemy patrols, wildlife, or the indifferent forest itself. Decisions are layered with uncertainty. The old man watches quietly, expression unreadable. Emil's hand hovers near his rifle, not to strike, but to assert control over the fragile order. He finally gestures for one soldier to aid the wounded man, the others covering. The wounded man's labored breathing echoes in the silent forest. Each inhale a reminder of vulnerability. Emil steps back, surveying the path ahead. Ruins of a small village loom in the distance. Smoke curls from a broken chimney, a sign of life, or perhaps a trap. Every instinct screams caution, but necessity drives them onward. Survival requires both bravery and calculation. Snow crunches underfoot. Frost clings to eyelashes, and eyelashes blink with icy lashes. The cold is not just physical. It penetrates thoughts, making every decision sharper, every moral choice more urgent. The men whisper briefly, "Food, warmth, safety, trust." Emil listens, weighing each word. In war, whispers carry as much weight as orders. The group reaches the outskirts of the ruined village. Houses are skeletal, walls missing, windows shattered. Emil gestures for caution. They move like shadows, footsteps muffled by snow. Every ruin could conceal danger. Every doorway might be a threat, or a sanctuary. The wounded soldier struggles to follow, and Emil must decide whether to slow the group, risking exposure, or press forward, leaving him behind. A sudden sound, a creaking floorboard, alerts them. Emil freezes. The shadow moves again, closer, deliberate. The wind shifts, carrying faint voices, indistinct but human. Emil signals to halt. Every instinct tells him the forest is testing them. Each pause a moral question. Act or wait, protect or survive, speak or stay silent. The old man steps forward, shaking his head slightly. Emil interprets it. Trust your instinct, but be cautious. He nods, acknowledging the silent guidance. They move forward together, cautiously. The wounded man stumbles, catching himself on a splintered fence post. Emil reaches for him, steadying him. Each interaction is a negotiation with risk and with conscience. They reach the village square. Moonlight glints off frozen puddles, illuminating debris scattered like memories. The faint glow of a candle flickers in one window. Emil gestures for silence. He signals two men to scout quietly. Every breath, every step, must now account for unseen eyes. The forest, or perhaps war itself, seems to watch. A noise, a shutter slamming, startles them. Emil freezes, hand tightening on his rifle. His men instinctively crouch. The wounded soldier whimpers quietly. Emil steps forward, raising a gloved hand to hush him. Every action is a moral calculus, protecting his men, aiding the weak, preserving life, avoiding detection. Suddenly, a figure appears, a young girl, no older than 12, her eyes wide with fear. She holds something, a small bundle, perhaps food or clothing. Emil gestures for calm. The soldiers hesitate. She could be a trap, a guide, or a survivor. His mind races. Helping her could risk everything, but leaving her is a moral line he cannot cross. Emil steps forward slowly. The girl flinches but does not run. She speaks softly, words almost lost in the wind. "They are coming!" Emil exchanges glances with his men. Who is coming? How many? And what choice do we make now? The forest holds its breath, and so does he. A distant flash lights the tree-line, a patrol, enemy or otherwise. Emil signals for everyone to move into the shadows of the ruins. The choice is urgent. Continue forward, risking exposure, or hide, delaying survival for all. Each option carries consequences that cannot be undone. The wounded man struggles. The girl clutches Emil's sleeve. His heart tightens. Every instinct, every moral compass, every ounce of courage is now tested. Time stretches in the frozen night. Emil moves carefully, scanning every shadow, judging every sound. He thinks of letters, villages, and faces lost to war. Survival is no longer a strategy. It is a continuous negotiation with fear, conscience, and the unknown. Each choice is a thread, and pulling one unravels another. A sudden noise, a branch snapping closer than expected. Emil freezes. His men freeze. The old man steps slightly forward, alert. The girl flinches, whispering again, "They are here!" Emil knows instinctively this is the moment of irreversible choice. Step forward, step back, act or wait. The consequences will echo beyond this night. The group huddles, deciding. Each man feels the weight of history pressing down. Snow falls softly around them, muffling sound, but amplifying every heartbeat. Emil's mind races through possibilities: confrontation, evasion, sacrifice. There is no right choice, only the necessity to decide. The shadow moves closer. Emil raises a hand, signaling stillness. Every movement is scrutinized, every breath counted. The forest, the night, the war itself, all wait for the next step. A moral line approaches, and Emil knows that whatever happens next cannot be undone. The snow falls thicker. Silence stretches. Emil's breath fogs in the cold air. The choice lies ahead, unseen, yet inevitable. The forest waits, patient and impartial. The consequences of the next step will ripple beyond the night. The snow is heavier now, falling in slow, relentless sheets. Emil stands at the edge of the ruined village, staring at the faint glow of distant fires. Silence presses around him, broken only by the faint crackle of frozen branches. Somewhere ahead, a choice has been made, and the cost will soon reveal itself. The night stretches endlessly, gray and suffocating. Emil's group moves cautiously through the shattered streets, every step weighed by exhaustion and fear. The wounded soldier limps forward, supported by one of the men. The young girl clutches Emil's coat, small and trembling, yet alive. Each of them carries the invisible burden of decisions made under impossible circumstances. The old man remains silent, his eyes scanning the forest edges. Emil notices the faint tremor in his hands, a reminder that survival exacts its toll not only on the body, but on the spirit. Every heartbeat is a negotiation with morality, with conscience, with the memory of those lost along the way. They reach the village square, partially cleared of debris. The candle they saw before flickers again, weak but persistent. Emil signals to move carefully, aware that the glow could draw unwanted attention. Every instinct warns of unseen danger, yet the path forward offers a fragile hope. The wounded soldier stumbles. Emil reaches for him, steadying him with quiet determination. The young girl whispers softly, "Will we be safe?" Emil looks down at her, searching for the words that balance honesty with reassurance. He realizes that survival is not just physical, it is emotional, moral, and relational. Every decision now resonates beyond immediate danger. Suddenly, distant voices echo through the ruins. Soldiers or refugees, indistinct but human. Emil gestures for silence. The wind carries their words, fragments of fear, hope, and uncertainty. He feels the weight of command pressing harder than ever. Every decision from now on will shape not only survival, but the moral fabric of those who follow him. A brief pause allows reflection. Emil surveys the village, roofs collapsed, windows shattered, streets empty but full of memory. Each ruin tells a story of choices made and lives disrupted. The forest beyond waits silently, patient and impartial. He thinks of the men lost in letters, the villages burned, the innocents caught in the line of duty. War is not only fought with weapons, it is fought with conscience, with fear, and with the fragile threads of humanity. Emil turns to his men, the wounded soldier, and the girl. Their eyes meet, sharing a silent understanding. Survival carries consequences. Each of them has faced impossible choices, witnessed despair, and felt the weight of responsibility. They are bound together not only by circumstance, but by the moral decisions that have defined their path. The forest stirs with distant movement. Emil signals the group to continue. Every step is careful, deliberate, calculated to preserve life without provoking disaster. The path is treacherous, but forward is the only option. They move slowly, each snowflake falling like a metronome, marking the rhythm of survival. The young girl looks up at Emil. "Will it ever end?" she asks softly. He pauses, searching for an answer that is both honest and comforting. The question lingers, not just about war, but about fear, loss, and the cost of choices. Emil knows the answer is uncertain, yet he must lead, act, and bear the responsibility. They reach a small clearing, the remnants of a destroyed barn offering minimal shelter. Inside, the wounded soldier collapses onto the cold floor, exhausted. Emil kneels beside him, ensuring he is stable. The girl curls up nearby, shivering but safe. Emil feels a rare moment of quiet, a pause in the relentless weight of survival. For a brief moment, Emil allows reflection. The choices made, the people helped, the risks taken, the lives preserved, are a testament to the fragile humanity that persists even in war. The old man finally speaks, a whisper carried by wind. "We endure because we must, and because memory demands it." Emil nods silently, understanding that survival is only meaningful when it carries compassion and conscience. Outside, the wind blows through the ruins, carrying echoes of distant artillery and lost voices. Emil knows that what they have endured is a fragment of the larger story, a story of survival, moral complexity, and the human cost of conflict. Every choice has left an imprint on their souls, shaping who they are and what they carry forward. The dawn begins to break, pale and cold. Snow reflects the first light, painting the village in soft gray tones. Emil rises, helping the wounded soldier and supporting the girl. The group steps into the open, cautiously, aware that survival continues, but that the choices of the past night will echo forever. Emil pauses on a small hill, overlooking the path they have traveled. The footprints in the snow tell a story of fear, endurance, and moral courage. He exhales slowly, recognizing the emotional cost of every decision. The war continues beyond them, indifferent to survival or suffering, yet their choices have created a small island of humanity amidst the chaos. He looks at the young girl, then at the old man, and finally at his men. There is understanding, silent but profound. They have endured together. They have made impossible decisions, faced fear, and preserved the lives they could. Emil knows that these moments, these choices, define the measure of humanity in a world otherwise consumed by conflict. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to help us remember and share stories from the front lines. Stories from the past help us understand humanity in difficult times. Share your thoughts in the comments. Every memory matters. The forest holds its breath no longer. The wind carries a quiet resolve, a reminder that life continues, and memory preserves the fragile victories of conscience and courage. Emil leads the group onward, each step a testament to endurance, empathy, and the choices that define humanity in the shadow of war. The camera lingers on the village, empty now, yet alive in memory. Snow continues to fall, covering footprints, erasing the visible path, but the echoes of choices made remain. Emil's group moves forward, silent and determined, carrying with them the weight of history, the lessons of survival, and the enduring spark of human connection.